Hello people, here is the new function that utilizes the sequence for primality testing. And how does it work? Well, let's see, it it starts off with the sequence start. So the variable d is equal to the sequence start, and it adds from that sequence start the first number in the sequence, and then it compares to see if the number that we're testing is evenly divisible by d, and if it reaches the square root of n, that's how I kick out of it, because a number only needs to be tested up to the square root. In my previous functions, what I did was, where did I do it at? Let's see. Okay, I always iterated all the way up to the square root. That was part of the for next function. So in this right here, I use a loop just to keep on going until, and then first I calculate the square root of n, and then I always test it as it's going through the do loop right here to see if it reaches, if it's greater than or equal to the square root of n, and then it exits out and returns true. Okay, that's how I did it. So anyway, that's my new function that I wrote that utilizes the sequence. Let's test. Which number are we going to test here? These are the numbers that we were using before. Okay, here's that 16-digit prime that I thought was cool, 789. So we know that that number is prime. And if I go to the top, I'm going to look up right here. I have my sequence count is going to be the first 3 primes. Okay, so we're testing this number right here. Save and run. Here it's running, and it's comparing the times. Let's compare the time it takes to test the number between the standard function, using the standard prime test function, and then using the new modified function. So here we have standard time is 3.4 seconds, new time 1.9 seconds, so almost cut it in half. And just double checking to make sure, because we know that that number is prime. It's returning true, it's prime. It's returning true in this function, it's prime, and its first factor is 1. Okay, that's correct. Let's test this other number right here. Comment that out, uncomment this one. We know that this number right here is not going to be prime because it's the square of a prime. So let's test it, and the results are, note this number right here is in fact not prime, and it's not prime in both functions. So we know that the functions are working correctly, and in order for it to figure out that it's not prime, and the standard function it took 3.2 seconds, in the new function 1.8 seconds. Alright, so we have increased our efficiency of trial division using the sequence successfully. I took some notes earlier. Oh, let me just show you. If I increase the, let me close that first. If I increase the number of primes that we're using for the sequence from, say, 3 to 4, or how about 5? Okay, so let me run this program. So as you can see, the sequence is much larger, has a whole bunch more numbers in it. And we're using primes 2, 3, 5, and 7. and the results are standard function as usual, 3.2 seconds, and this time, because we're using more numbers for our sequence, it's going to be only 1.4 seconds. I did a time I opened up a notepad. Here we go. So I was testing this number right here before. This is that prime squared, where its first factor is going to be here. So I did some tests using different levels of the sequence, and that's your standard test. Then 1.8 seconds, so from 3.2 seconds down to 1.8, 1.6, 1.4, 1.3. So the efficiency just increases the larger your pattern is. So there you go, guys.